Hey everybody, welcome to DadsDen of Pop Culture. It is the culmination of October, the spooky season. It is Halloween today. Happy Halloween. And today we're going to extend the werewolf theme that we've been having this month, 2025, with maybe one of the scariest pieces of animation out there that there is that deals with werewolves and the whole theme of lycanthropy. So, every 400 years, a baby werewolf is born into the Fangsworth family. Thus, whenever Sherman Fangsworth sees the moon, he changes into Fangface, a werewolf. Only by seeing the sun or a picture of the sun can change him back to normal. He teams up with his pals Kim Carlton, voiced by Susan Blue, Biff Sutcliffe, voiced by Jerry Dexter, and Pugsy Colmare, voiced by Bart Braverman. And he is not that color in the cartoon. It's just this weird artifact in the opening. Either way, he teams up with them to fight monsters and solve mysteries and generally have a good time. And thus goes the introduction to Fangface, a Saturday morning cartoon that aired on ABC from 1978 to 1979 as a segment on the Plastic Man Comedy Adventure Show, which I did a review of the Plastic Man part on this channel a little while ago. You might want to go look for that. The show consisted of 24 episodes. It was created by Joe Ruby and Ken Spears, who also created Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?, which this show bears quite a bit of resemblance to, but of course, a lot of shows in that period did. Ruby Spears also created the great Thundar the Barbarian. Well, the Scooby template that Ruby and Spears created, like I said, used often during this period in shows that ranged from Speed Buggy to Funky Phantom to Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels. The basic idea was you grab some teenagers, you add some sort of a weird, odd character to it, a talking dog, a talking car, a ghost, a werewolf, and you have them solve some mysteries. It is a very simple plot device that provides plenty of opportunity for jokes and gags and even music and even a little bit of action. Pretty much everything that a kid would want to see on Saturday morning TV. And of course, these guys also had a cool car, which was often, you needed some kind of cool mode of transportation. Now, the cartoons, the Fangface cartoons, were directed by Rudy Larriva, maybe best known for some of the late era Warner Brothers Roadrunner and Coyote cartoons. Now, just as Scooby-Doo focuses on Shaggy and Scooby, Fangface focuses on the duo of Pugsy and Sherman/Fangface, a duo based on Leo Gorcey and Huntz Hall from the East Side Kids and Bowery Boys comedies. Frank Welker does a pretty nice job in the Huntz Hall role of Sherman/Fangface. A little over the top, which of course is saying something when you're doing a version of Huntz Hall, but over the top in a good way for a cartoon. Braverman is fine as Pugsy. He has to work with the scripts he's given, and the big thing with Gorcey was these malapropisms that he would litter into a sentence. In other words, using the wrong word. Sounds kind of like the word, but it's the wrong word. I don't think they necessarily gave Braverman enough of those that he could really make the patter work that well, but he does okay with it. Doesn't quite have the energy either. Probably the best imitators of Gorcey and Hall were David Lander and Michael McKean, Lenny, and Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley. We don't get as much character out of Kim and Biff as we do from the rest of the Scooby Gang. They kind of facilitate the stories while the good stuff goes to the bad guys and to Pugsy and to Fangface. And in the second season, to Sherman's baby cousin, also a werewolf, who becomes Fangpuss. Honestly, pretty unnecessary to the cartoon. Don't really know why they added the character, but he is less annoying than Scrappy Doo, so you have that much going for you. As I said, the show does use the basic Scooby-Doo premise, although rather than the team going up against people pretending to be monsters, Fangface and company are going up against the real thing, such as The Heap, who's probably inspired by the Hulk, which, show premiered, I think, about a year earlier. You get this totally crazy-looking ape dude with a Viking helmet. You get this beautiful freak. There is a robotic she-wolf designed to put Fangface under the villain's control, very reminiscent of some of the old Looney Tunes stuff, especially the Tasmanian she-devil. And, of course, you're going to get a whole bunch of mad scientists. There's a crew called the Skullmen, who are very cool. Love those uniforms. And there's a sky pirate in a dirigible. The monster designs are reminiscent of the bad guys in Plastic Man, and I mentioned in that review that they're really fun. They're very, very creative. So no big surprise that you have something similar in a sister cartoon that was being done. But they really are pretty cool and well worth the time you're going to spend watching these cartoons. And I also think that using real monsters makes sense, since the weird addition to this team of teenagers is a werewolf with super strength rather than just, a talking Great Dane. You had to give him something that could really challenge him. I think overall the show is a pretty clever way to work a werewolf into a Saturday morning cartoon, where you obviously can't get, too horrifying for the kids. It keeps just enough of the lore to work, but it removes the scare factor. As an example, if Fangface is ever around food, he tries to eat his buddy Pugsy, which takes the form of him basically like stuffing Pugsy in his mouth, and then his cheeks are all expanded out and Pugsy's in there trying to get out. So it's not gory or anything. It's done for comedy. It's just goofy. The only way to calm Fangface down in these situations is to tickle his foot, which sounds remarkably like a Three Stooges bit with Curly back in the day. And in that aforementioned She-Wolf cartoon, Fangface even does the classic Shemp floor exercise. And lo and behold, one of the writers on the show was Norman Maurer, son-in-law of Mo Howard, inventor of the 3D comic, along with his brother Leonard and Joe Kubert, creator of the cinemagic process used in the 1960 film Angry Red Planet. Yes, that is incredibly rad. And executive producer of live-action segments for the new Three Stooges cartoon series. So, you got somebody connected to the Stooges, putting some Stooges stuff in the cartoon. And like I said, you also get callbacks to the East Side Kids, Bowery Boys. Pretty cool, honestly, for a retro head like me. And that's stuff that obviously kids at the time in the late 70s, they might get the Three Stooges references. They probably weren't getting the Bowery Boys stuff. I always liked, though, that when you could tell that the writers, they love this stuff and they want to put it in, and it works. It's entertaining. Fangface really is just about what you would expect for a late 1970s Saturday morning cartoon. It's got a fast pace, especially since the segments are only 10 minutes, so they don't have time to goof around. You get silly jokes. You get a lot of puns. The animation is pretty good for the time period, and the voice actors do a good job as well. Now, for horror fans, including monster kids, you really don't get something akin to the classic Wolfman. So if you got this real hunger for werewolf stuff, you're not really going to get that in Fangface. But the monsters and the bad guys are lots of fun. They're a great excuse for the gags and the jokes, and that is exactly what they're supposed to be in a cartoon like this. Classic Looney Tunes, also not that big on plot. It's about getting the funny stuff in there. If you think of this cartoon as a sort of animated short subject comedies like the Three Stooges or Laurel and Hardy, you really have the right idea about what's going on here. All in all, Fangface is a fun cartoon. I didn't see it when I was a kid. It was on opposite something else that I watched. I don't remember what it was now. I had one of those little Scholastic books, a novelization, basically, of Fangface, when I was a kid, and I really loved it, but I'd never seen the cartoons. So I finally watched them, and even at my advanced age, I got some laughs out of them. There are some genuinely funny moments in it. The humor's not as weird as in Plastic Man, but like I said, it was funny, and I think it would still work for an audience of kids. Nothing in these cartoons you're going to have to worry about. They're safe for the kiddos, even nowadays. And I think they might enjoy it. So if, maybe you're nostalgic for Fangface, you remembered it from your childhood, or even if you're new, give it a try. You can find some episodes out there on YouTube. I don't think they've released it like on DVD or anything, physical media, or if they did, it was a long time ago. So you kind of have to just, find it where you find it. But give it a try. Fangface is actually a pretty funny cartoon and pretty clever in the way that they work a werewolf into Saturday morning, appropriate material. Let me know what you think in the comments about old Fangface. Maybe you have some memories of it, or maybe you got some questions. Again, it's not a real complex show, but I'll answer any questions if I can. If you enjoyed this little review of Fangface, please give it a like, maybe subscribe, maybe share with a friend. That'd be very cool. But until next time, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there, especially because it's Halloween. Go trick or treat or have some fun with the trick-or-treaters who come to your house. And I will see you again next time. DadsDen of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.